Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Rudd Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1989 biopic war drama titled Born on the 4th of July. Now, Born on the 4th of July runs for 2 hours and 24 minutes long. It is directed by Oliver Stone. It is produced by Oliver Stone and A. Kitman Ho. The script was written by Oliver Stone and Ron Kovic, and this is, of course, a biopic based off of Ron Kovic's memoirs, also titled Born on the 4th of July. The score was done by the legendary John Williams, the cinematography by Robert Richardson, and the editing was done by Joe Hutsing and David Brenner. And the stars of the movie are, we got Tom Cruise, we got Kyra Sedgwick, we got Raymond J. Barry, Jerry Levine, Frank Whaley, Willem Dafoe, Catherine Cava, Stephen Baldwin, Tom Sizemore, and Tom Berenger. So, placed in the rightful hand for direction, Oliver Stone had experienced it all. In the Vietnam War, Stone was awarded the Purple Heart and the Silver Star, so therefore, pretty much no one else was qualified to direct this film, and that pretty much sums up the nightmare he had endured and the reception he got afterwards. Even though the reception that he got was not particularly positive, let alone flattering. Born on the 4th of July is based on the true story centering on Ron Kovic, played by Tom Cruise, who was bitten by the military bug after President John F. Kennedy's speech, which inspired him to join the Marines. Sorry, that's about the closest I could to a John F. Kennedy impersonation. So after all the propaganda hype to get his head, he decided to arbitrarily volunteer to join the Marines and to engage in war, the Vietnam War, that is. I mean, you kind of think it's kind of a little bit weird that somebody would actually be, like, enthusiastic in joining the war. Most people would be just reluctant. I mean, this guy actually volunteered, not necessarily getting drafted or anything like that. So during his second voyage, he accidentally annihilates innocent Vietnamese peasants and people of his own brigade while trying to escape the potential fatality of enemy ceasefire. So 3 months into this, Kovic gets shot in the spine, and he is left, which has left him paralyzed from the waist down. This eventually leads to him making a residency to Veterans Hospital, and he almost comes this close to getting his leg amputated. But fortunately, he's eventually, well, I guess, cured from getting amputated, even though, like, of getting his leg amputated. But he was actually eventually cleared to return home to his parents, and thank goodness for that. Did you ever get a chance to see this movie and to see the conditions that this Veterans Hospital had? By God, that place was fucking sick. I mean, they were practically almost like this. They were practically literally an ankle length high, walking literally in shit. The place looked like a fucking hellhole. I mean, it's unsanitary. I mean, just being in this place, you would rather just kill yourself. Get it over with. Euthanasia or something like that. I mean, if you see the conditions inside a veterans hospital, this is not exactly the most immaculate place in the world. And then, of course, you also got to worry about disease, gangrene, all kinds of other shit. No, thank you. Ugh. The place was a fucking nightmare. I don't know what else to tell you. I was actually rooting for him to finally get out of that veterans hospital. At least he was spared of getting his leg amputated. If there's anything positive to say about the conditions there, but then again, you know, like I say, if you're a war soldier and you come out, sometimes you're not always going to get the hero's reception. In fact, you're probably going to get condemned. And knowing that this was the Vietnam War, chances are, don't expect a warm, friendly reception. So back home, he gets the displeasure returning with an old peer named Steve, played by Jerry Levine, who's made a great business for himself and had better common sense than to volunteer in the Vietnam War. Kovic is labeled as a hero at a July 4th parade, especially by the Republican government, the Republican Party, so to speak. They regard him as a hero, and he gets to stand up to the podium and give out a speech. However, unfortunately, Kovic eventually suffers a meltdown, unable to cope with the fact that he caused just as much heartbreak as he did triumph during his journey. There was a scene like when he was doing his speech, you know, he heard the distinct sound of a baby crying in the background, and hearing the sound of that baby cry kind of gave him a reminder of the villages that he and his troops had pillaged, killing the lives of innocent people who were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that he was given that unfriendly reminder of all the damage he's done. And does that actually make him a hero? No. It actually gives him the impression that I'm just as much of a villain as I was a hero, because me and my troops, we invaded, you know, Vietnamese villages, and we took the lives of innocent people. So he has this meltdown, and you know, this is some very, very intense and uncomfortable scenes. In fact, this movie has a lot of intensity built around the story. So he tries to win back his love for his girlfriend Donna, played by Kyra Sedgwick, who has become an anti-war supporter. And of course, this kind of leads him to sort of reconsider his original thoughts. When he first volunteered to join the war in the Vietnam, you know, he was gung-ho. He was pro-war. He thought that, you know, if I come into the war zone, I'll be a hero. I'll be standing proud. But no, he is now a permanent wheelchair-bound individual. He is, you know, disfigured. He seems to be somewhat distraught. He's suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in some ways, he doesn't even feel at all like a hero. In fact, he feels more like a villain who just so happens to be getting a hero's reception. So Kovic is definitely granted a monthly pension from the government, but he uses his restitution in favor for alcohol, or as I like to call, the sauce, as he laments into a chronic state of self-pity, distancing himself from his parents. He also gets into a post-traumatic stress syndrome nervous breakdown when his unbearably self-absorbed mother tries to provoke him. So then he goes on this really, really long, intense tirade. His father tries to control him, but his nervous breakdown was just so overwhelming that they are left with no choice but to have him evicted. So then this leads him to travel down to Mexico, where he's retreated to a haven of other wounded soldiers. One of them includes a argumentative, gruff guy by the name of Charlie, played by Willem Dafoe. And there he starts drinking and starts hitting it off with hookers. Charlie definitely feels that, being in Mexico was his best investment in his life, and he practically does not want to return home to the United States. Whereas Charlie feels that maybe this time in Mexico will help him, get cooler heads prevailed or something. But, there is, of course, Charlie and Ron eventually get into a little bit of a fisticuffs in some scenes. It's pretty intense, so to speak. Fortunately, Kovic does have a change of plans and decides to come back home. He comes to terms with the family, and he also tries to get a big, heavy burden off his back when he tells I guess you could say remember what I told you about him killing a soldier? Well, he's going to go to the house where the soldier that was killed, he comes over and tells the wife of the soldier he killed. She's played by Lily Taylor. And, he eventually becomes, has a change of heart. He's now an anti-war advocate, as he interrupts the Republican presidential convention led by President Richard Nixon, which resulted in him being assaulted and then later rescued. In 1976, at a Democratic convention in New York City, he announces the release of his autobiography, and that's pretty much how the story kind of ends there. So after the success of his other films like Risky Business, Legend, and Rain Man, I thought this was going to be the chance for Tom Cruise to shine come Oscar time. Well, okay, yes. Rain Man, I believe he was nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. But I thought this was actually a great chance to see Tom Cruise kind of break out from his pretty boy image to play a much more somewhat deranged, sort of unkept character. But at least it was making him go from the transformation from the pretty boy image to a more serious acting kind of roles that was now given to him. And I thought that he should have by right been Oscar nominated. Sadly, he lost actually to Daniel Day-Lewis, who played another crippled iconic. He did win the Golden Globes for his performance, and he did get an ovation when Stone won the Oscar for Best Director. The movie itself was truly a box office success, considering that an accomplishment, being that was made under a small budget. The fan base at the time on IMDb.com rated this film a passing grade of 7.2 out of 10, considering the viewership was under 60K. The main gender age demographics were definitely males from the ages of 18 or under, give the bulk of the appraisal at 7.9 out of 10. I'm guessing these youngsters can feel related to the leading character, as you know, he's going through high levels of personal issues, and that the attraction can definitely reflect on the youth more easier. For the men over 45 years old, they rated this film at its lowest score of 6.9 out of 10. And this is largely due to the fact that the star of the film was not closer in connecting with the younger stars at the time, or that the views were not lenient towards Kovac's anti-war beliefs, or the lack of patriotism depicted in this movie. I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, patriotism is not always reflected upon in a positive light, and here you definitely truly see this. This could be probably due to Oliver Stone and his biased, obviously pro-liberal agenda. But in spite of all the fan support it has received over the years, there are definitely a few flaws that came with this movie. Though it didn't really deter too much of my expectations. Just some minor nitpicks. They covered the story way too much with ground making and too much out of scenes that weren't in sync with the story. I mean, definitely, who cares about Kovac and his failed efforts to win the wrestling title, or to crash his school prom in a dramatic rain run? The Vietnam Village annihilation was covered in many films before and was done 10 times better. But still, Oliver Stone and Tom Cruise will go out of their way to leave nothing out of their storytelling, even if it pisses the life out of you. The intense moments they bring will be more to get a reaction than they really deliver the goods, especially Kovac yelling at his own mother while drunk. I mean, there was some real tense scenes right there. I mean, yeah, we all sort of have our little outbursts here and there, but by God, the delivery in that scene alone was scary, but also at the same time very effective in delivery. And it really just goes to show you that Tom Cruise was ready to take on much more bigger, challenging roles that require his acting skills as opposed to his good looks. Overall, this movie I would definitely highly recommend. It's got some great performances and well deserved of its accolades and awards by the mass. It has an appeal to, and a bitter connection towards its younger audience, as it understands Cruise's character a little bit better. But then again, Cruise at the time, he was very young. He was in his late 20s. So I guess, the youthful appeal towards a 20-something is something that maybe like the youth would probably get more invested in. Sure, it goes on a little bit too long with scenes that don't fit the story, but it thankfully doesn't meander. So if you are into war dramas, then this film is a good watch that might touch on you. To say that this was a war movie, well, let's face it, we're not looking at too much like in the war zones or anything like that. The movie kind of has a more psychological human drama intake rather than being a war movie. It kind of looks more deeper into the realms of people who suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome and the side effects it has. I mean, the character of Ron Kovac is something that you could totally relate to. I mean, you kind of understand what he's going through. Sure, you don't like it when he suffers from his PTSD, a post-traumatic stress syndrome. You don't really like to see him, suffer from, erratic behavior caused by it. It does really, really touch you. And, even though you may think that the guy, when he's doing that, you may get the feeling that he's an unlikable individual. But if you experience the thing that he went through, he would definitely be more easier to understand. You got to sort of, let's see, how do I say this? You got to sort of like be in his shoes to get a better feeling of what it's like. You like to see him triumph, and you root for him the whole way. You feel bad that he's gonna have to go around by wheelchair for the rest of his life. But I do like the strides he makes, especially when he confronts the widow of the soldier he accidentally killed, and whether she forgives him or not, at least he has now the guts and the determination and the selflessness that comes with him apologizing. It takes a lot of courage to do that, but at least he finally was able to succeed in doing that. Would I say he comes out as a full-blown hero? No. And I don't think he even anticipates or wants to be regarded as a hero. Is he a villain in a hero's clothing? No, because he was never actually like freely trying to invade Vietnamese villages, killing off innocents. I think he was told to do it. I mean, it was under strict command that he had to do it. I'm sure he didn't just feel free oh, I don't like Vietnamese, I'm gonna just go into a village and da 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 da. No, doesn't work that way. He was under pressure to do so. But I really think that that there's a lot of things to like about this movie, and even though there was a lot of good qualities to it, I do think that it did go on too long. There were some scenes that could have done some editing out, but it was very, very effective. So when all said and done, if I was to give this movie a score out of 10, I would give Born on the 4th of July a 7.5. So I guess this ends my movie review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.